Great name, real original, right? Hey there, welcome back to my channel, String Things by Mel. My name is Melissa. I'm a stay-at-home mom living in Vancouver, Canada. And on my channel, I chat and share everything about my knitting hobby. Today, I've got a couple of finished objects, a whip, some acquisitions from Fibres West, and just some kind of project ideas. Want to float by you guys, get your opinion on colors, just specifically for one of them. So let's go ahead and get started with what I am wearing today. So first finished object is my Norma sweater. This is a pattern from My Favorite Things Knitwear. I did discuss this a little bit in my last podcast episode. If you're wondering about how I did the jogless stripes, I recommend taking a look at my previous video. But this is size extra small. I didn't make any modifications other than my collar is 3 centimeters shorter than what the pattern says. So mine is closer to about 8 centimeters, maybe a little bit less. Pattern says 11 centimeters, and I'm really happy that I shortened my collar. The sample, it does go, a fair bit higher, as I said, 3 centimeters more. I just feel like I don't have a super long neck. I'm also just not super comfortable with wearing a turtleneck all the time. Of course, winter turtlenecks are great. I wanted this one to be more of a transitional sweater, so lowering the collar, the neckline was kind of a must for me. And how I determined the best length was actually just knitting and then blocking and trying it on, and then giving it a little bit of a tug to try to mimic the weight of the sweater itself. And luckily, it worked out. Yeah, I could have maybe gone a little bit taller, but I'm happy. Love this sweater. Have been enjoying it a lot. Wouldn't change anything about it. So the colors that I've used, so the main color is from Holst Garn Supersoft, and it's held double. So all the strands I've used are held double. So we got the color Oatmeal, and for the stripes, so the red is not Holst Garn. It's from Knit Picks palette, and it's the color Tomato, and it's a really nice orangey red, really vibrant, saturated color. And the blue is Holst Garn Supersoft in the color Glacier. And I really like the combination of all three. It's very cheerful to me. It's a combination I like way more than I thought I was going to. I think the blue is a really nice kind of neutral denim. I say neutral because I consider denim to be neutral. I wear jeans every day. But yeah, really enjoying just the pattern, the pop of color, and I just can't stop thinking about red. Not just this red, but I want to get some more red in my wardrobe now because of this. I'm just kind of like fixated on this. This is gonna be something I'm going to be working on, I guess, for the spring and summer, is adding more red into my wardrobe. So in terms of measurements, my garment is pretty spot on to the pattern measurements for size extra small. So mine, after blocking, is about 3 centimeters shorter, but it's 3 centimeters larger in circumference. So with some wear, with some gravity, this could, end up pulling down a bit, which would kind of, as you lengthen fabric, it pulls in, so the circumference may get a little bit narrower as the length gets longer. So it also could be something that I could go back and block if I really want to hit the exact measurements. But other than that, pretty close. I did not use the recommended needle size, which is 5 millimeters. I ended up going down to 4.5. And I did swatch in the round. So the instructions for this pattern say to swatch flat, which is very strange because there is nowhere in this entire garment where you knit flat. So if you have really good awareness of your tension while knitting. Do your due diligence and knit in the round versus knitting flat, because if you're like me, there is a difference in tension between flat and in the round. So I use 4.5mm needles, and that did get me closer to gauge, but it also gave me a fabric that I liked more. I found the 5mm to be a little bit too drapey, a little bit too open. So the stitches are just ever so slightly smaller, and the fabric is still really comfortable. There's still quite a bit of movement with it. I also really like that I don't have any mohair, so that is something that I wanted to make sure to do, was to not use mohair, and that makes it a better transitional piece for myself because it doesn't get very cold here and it doesn't stay very cold here. So that is my Norma sweater. As I said before, really enjoying it. Someone else had a good word about this, but the instructions for the striping, this person described it as like convoluted, and I do agree. Because when I swatched in the round, I figured out what the stripe pattern was just from looking at pictures, and then going into the instructions and just kind of feeling like, what? Sorry, what do you want me to do? I see this picture, but it doesn't quite, well, there was no easel, like, it wasn't translated over very nicely. I think a chart would have been better. And how I was able to still enjoy knitting up this sweater was that, well, one, definitely in product mode, I really wanted the finished object. And then two, I kind of rewrote those instructions in a way that I would understand them, just based on how I, looking at the picture and working out, you know, which ones get the increasing and so on. So that's how I got through it. It's might be something that you have to do, but just a heads up for anyone who decides to purchase and make the sweater as well. There is also a drop shoulder version. So this is the Norma sweater, the original, the first version that came out with the raglan lines. It's not a compound raglan, it's just a straight. For my size anyways, I didn't check the other sizes, but there is a very steady increase rate down the raglan line. And if you are kind of in between sizes, depending on which sizes you are in between, so if you are considering, as I was, between extra small and small, the instructions are the same for quite a while, and it wasn't until before, maybe around this part, where you have to decide whether you're going to be an extra small or a small, because then the increase rate or the number of increases does change between those two sizes. So that happens between, say, extra small, and then medium large, and then extra large and extra extra large. If you're between small and medium, however, you're going to have to make that decision sooner, because I believe there may be even different cast on numbers, like right from the get-go. So I think that is everything I wanted to share about my Norma sweater. Let me know if you have any questions, but yes, I'm enjoying this one very much. Next up is my Nordic Bloom Vest. So I just released a video just a few days ago all about fixing, saving this vest. So please watch that one if you want the full story. But long story short, my hands lied, I had a stitch gauge issue, nothing wrong with the pattern. The issue was a me issue, but I was able to fix it. So it ended up being way too big, about 3 sizes too big. And sorry, my cat. Okay, there he is. Hey, buddy. Hey, you coming to join us? He really wants to go in the yard. It's a beautiful sunny morning, and I want to go out too, but I've already committed myself to filming this. Okay, back to Nordic Bloom. So I knit up the whole thing. Had Hadn't cut the steek yet, but the button band was on. So the button band you pick up and do before you cut the steek. And just put it on. Just way too big. So, how I did it, I guess spoilers if you are going to watch this video, but obviously we know it worked out because I have it here. Decided that I didn't want to frog the entire thing. I liked the color work that I did. So I decided that I was just going to, because it's worked bottom up, so I decided that I was just going to frog, say all this green that you see here, frog down to the point where you have color work, and it's just literally like this straight, no increases, no shaping, kind of like band of fabric, and decided that I was just going to cut into it. Now, since the video has been released, there's been lots of comments on it, and there were a few people who pointed out that, or asked me, why didn't I cut just like at the steek point and then pick up my button band from there? And you know what? That is an excellent and smart way to do it. Yeah. So, I'm going to save that, bank it for in case I ever have a similar issue again. But what I did was just cut out excess fabric from the back. So I essentially was going from a size 5 down to a size 2. And that is a difference of 3 pattern repeats, this flower. So that's what's different between the sizes. The same length, same number of stitches for every size. The only difference is the number of repeats. And then beyond that, when you get to the upper portion of the vest, is the number of rows and the increase rate. So that's where a lot of the difference in fit and shaping happens there, not down here. But you can, I'll tell you, but you can see a little bit of a jog in a stitch where I mattress stitched the back. This one right here. I might go in duplicate stitch and fix some of these, but also I don't think it's that noticeable. So I don't know if it's one of those things that's, worth the effort. Here's the extra piece, the excess fabric that I removed. And I'm going to save it. There's some really good ideas in the comments of my Nordic Bloom video. Some people are saying like either frame it as artwork for my little studio that I'm sitting in. I call it my tiny studio, my yarn room. Another person said, oh, can you work it into the back of a sweater for your daughter? That's a pretty neat idea because my daughter does really like this flower motif. She was really eyeing it up the entire time I was working on this vest. Another great idea was to use this piece and turn it into a project bag or incorporate it into a bag. Like to sew, not necessarily like knit a bag, but like incorporate it that way and like add a zipper or something like that. So all great ideas. That kind of project is not a priority at this time, but I'm going to save those ideas and see kind of which one speaks to me more. And that might be something I do maybe in the fall or winter when maybe I slow down in knitting. I don't know. I've got lots of ideas for spring and summer. My mojo is back. Feeling a lot better. I did mention burnout in my last video. I'm doing a lot better. The good weather does help. And I've been really leaning into just going out into the yard every time it's nice, doing some yard work, doing some gardening. I'm really just like digging holes and pulling out weeds at this point. We don't exactly know what we're doing landscaping wise. Because priority is for renovations on the inside of the house. But in the meantime, I've just been kind of maintaining what's out there, and it's been really good. And Darcy's been going outside with me, and Tiberius, my cat, and we've just been hanging out there, just away from screens, away from our phones. Well, Darcy doesn't have a phone. I'm away from my phone. So yeah, it's a good time, and yeah, been doing a lot better. Getting more sleep was like the big fix there. I don't want to say fix, but lack of sleep definitely exasperates things. So I prioritized my sleep and then being outside and just, yeah, in general, doing a lot better. So Nordic Bloom Vest, I knit size 2. It's pretty spot on to the pattern measurements because I have a little bit of a stitch gauge difference. Mine is ever so slightly smaller. It's only about like an inch smaller in circumference though. I actually have larger armholes than the pattern by a few centimeters. And that's the only thing that I don't really like about the design of the pattern. I feel like the armholes are a little small, kind of in proportion to, or like my personal liking. Maybe some people do like the size of armholes for this one. I also am just kind of used to like deeper, bigger, oversized armholes. But just thought I mentioned that the armhole circumference and length and chest circumference are measurements that are included in the pattern, which is available to purchase individually. It wasn't when I was working on the Nordic Bloom Vest video, but it is now. But yeah, check out those measurements before you decide which size you are going to do, or you just have to maybe adjust by needing some more rows in the upper area, armhole area, to increase that whole size. The colors I used for my vest, so the yarn, first off, is not the suggested yarn. The suggested yarn I couldn't get enough of and in the colors that I wanted locally. So I ended up going with Knit Picks, which there was a sale. So that's kind of why I decided to go with the Knit Picks. This is the Wool of the Andes, the worsted weight. So this is a lighter weight yarn than the suggested yarn, just FYI. I still use the same needle size, but I have a lighter yarn, so my fabric is just a little bit more drapey, less bulky, which is nice, especially in the color work area where it's essentially almost like 2 layers thick. And so the green color is called Larch Heather. Ooh, sorry, I'm in artificial lighting here. And the kind of beige color here, it's like a pinky beige, and it's called Oyster Heather. I thought this yarn worked really well for the color work. Considering that I did an extra cut in my fabric as well, it's great. It sticks to each other without trying too hard. You don't really need to actively felt the areas where you're going to cut. And in terms of actually knitting the color work, so I'm no expert in color work. I've done very few garments of it. But this is what it looks like on the inside. You can see where I stitch my fabric in the back there. And then the little flaps from steeking by the button band. So I think it looks pretty good. I don't have super long floats. There's not too many areas in the pattern where there are really long floats. Actually, at the very beginning, the first row, I decided to not like secure these really long floats right here. And you know what? I was worried about that, but the yarn's pretty sticky, and so it's not like hanging loose, like it's gonna get caught on things. But after that, because I was so concerned, I did kind of trap some of my floats on other parts in the chart, but I don't think I really needed to. So if you don't like trapping floats, I don't think you really need to. And don't forget about color dominance when you are knitting your color work. So color dominance refers to kind of, there is 2 layers of fabric and you want one color to dominate or kind of like stick out more than the other one. So in this case, we want the lighter color, the flowers to stick out more. So you're going to hold your yarns in a certain order, whether you are an English knitter or a continental knitter. You're gonna have your color that you want to stand out more is going to be like closer to you, closer to your fabric, and your contrast color is like behind, depending on how you're holding your yarns, whether you're doing it 1 in each hand or 2 in one hand. Just search for Well, I actually like to refer to Andrea Rangel's content for color work. She does a lot of color work designs. So I just quickly read something she had on her website about color dominance. And because I'm not an experienced color work knitter, I struggled a bit to find my rhythm and figure out how to hold my yarns. I'm a continental knitter, and I tried to do kind of throwing with my right hand and just completely useless. Like, I don't know, my right hand just cannot do it. So I ended up holding both strands of yarn in my left hand, like sort of in a way, but anyways, you do what's comfortable, do what's not gonna like hurt your hands or anything like that. Just because I held both strands in my left hand worked for me doesn't mean it's gonna work for you, but there you go, that's how I did it. And so that is my Nordic Bloom vest. Oh, buttons. These are just some inexpensive kind of faux tortoiseshell buttons I got off of Amazon maybe even a couple years ago. I just bought a pack of different colors. Um, and I sewed these on the morning that I was going to Fibres West because I decided that I was going to wear it that day. And so they're not completely evenly spaced. Like there's more space between the top and the middle button than there is between the middle and the bottom button, but whatever. Maybe I'll fix it eventually. I also use just the green yarn to sew the buttons on, which, I mean, I think it's holding up fine, but yeah, there we go. Nordic Bloom Vest, patterned by Caitlin Hunter, also known as Boyland Knitworks. So next I want to get into a couple of whips. The first one is my informal name, Broken Rib Stitch Pullover. Great name, real original, right? Inspired by my friend's pattern, Sarah Noel Knits, her Cameron pullover, which I was part of the test group for. So that's a children's pattern, and as I have said in the past, I wanted a cozy version for myself, so I decided to draft up my own pattern. I am nearly done, so I am using Drops Air. That was like the driving factor as well. Like it had to be in Drops Air in order to achieve the maximum cozy, Laura Penrose, feel that I wanted for mine. So I almost done. Almost done. I'm just working away on the body. So I'm almost at the point where it's time to start for my ribbing. The ribbing I've decided I'm going to do probably the same distance. I think this is 7 centimeters. Oh, no. Let's see. Not quite. Maybe when it's blocked. Right now it's sitting at 6 centimeters, the 1x1 rib cuff that I have here. And so that's what I would like to do on the end of the body. So I'm almost at that point. I'm not going to be releasing this as a pattern. This is just kind of for personal use. How it is right now, it's not really ideal. Like I would have to make another sample and redo the drop shoulder construction if I were to do it as a pattern. Not pleased with my tension for the slope that I have in the back here. I just knit way too tightly for the increases that I did. But you know, it's fine for me. It looks fine. But if I were to do this as a pattern, I would fix that because I think that's not going to be great on other people. The other thing I want to fix is the collar. So I've done a fold over collar, did some double knitting for the fold over part. But I find that in proportion to the overall look of this sweater and how the cuffs look, I find that it's not tall enough. But I also don't like the amount of volume or bulk at the fold. So I'm gonna rip back and I'm going to just change it to just a single layer and kind of match the look, do Italian bind off as I did on the cuffs. And I'm not going to go too much longer, but I think that's going to be more proportional and more in line with the overall look that I want for this sweater. This kind of height of collar worked well on my daughter's sweater, but hers obviously different proportions, much smaller size. She's 4 years old, so it worked well on hers, but it's not quite doing the same. It's not vibing right for me. So I am going to rip that out and do it. I don't have to rip all the way out because I like the amount of stitches I've picked up. And if it does feel like it's still like flaring out or chunky, I'll put some elastic in, and with the elastic, it will kind of round out the neck hole opening. Some of you may be wondering, like it doesn't have the greatest stitch definition when you're using, this is a fuzzy, blown yarn. Why choose to do some sort of stitch pattern with this kind of yarn? And my logic, my reasoning is actually for the structure that you get from broken rib stitch. So not entirely going after the look of it, although I do like the look of it in the drops air, but there is something about it versus say a stockinette fabric in the same needle size. You're gonna probably have a little bit more fluidity, a little bit more drape, but you add in these pearls, especially with the alternating, this is a 2-row repeat of the broken rib stitch, and there's a little bit of a structure to it, just ever so slight to the fabric, and I really like that. And I think that gives it more of like the thicker sweatshirt vibe, which is kind of the fabric I was going after. Like it's still comfortable, it still moves really well, but yeah, just enjoying this versus stockinette, which is what my daughter's unicorn sweater, her Always Forever unicorn sweater. That one is 5mm needles, same yarn, but stockinette, but that one's just like much more fluid than this. So that's my logic behind going with the broken rib stitch for this pullover. Not sure if that's what my friend Sarah was thinking when she made her pattern for the Cameron pullover, because her suggested yarn was drops air as well. Yeah, so I don't know what would happen if you change up the yarn, because while at the same time you get the structure from the rib stitch pullover, you still get lightness because this is a blown yarn. If I were to switch this to say like, I don't know, Cascade 220, which is a plied worsted weight yarn, it just might actually be too heavy. You'll get great stitch definition from that yarn, but it's going to be heavier than this because it's not doesn't have as much air as drops air. So that is something that hopefully I will finish this week. My daughter has gymnastics today, so maybe I'll have time to sit and knit while she's doing that. I don't know. Or I'll end up chatting with the moms there. I don't know. I'll bring it just in case. But that's my broken rib stitch pullover. And that's the name I'll continue to use because I don't know what else to call it. Second and final whip I want to share is a new cast on, something that I have mentioned in past videos when I purchased from Elise's True Colors collection. I'll just show the label here. Actually, one thing. Okay. Logistics. That is why I am sitting in my tiny studio yarn room. I know the lighting is not, as good as the room that I have sat in the past, but it is downstairs. And with these podcast episodes and like hearing everything down there, setting it all up and then bringing it all back. It's also Darcy's playroom. So it's one of those rooms that I can just not have to look at. And if it's a mess of toys, it's a mess. I just leave it because it's around a corner. If people come over, they don't necessarily see it. So this is easier for me. I'm just gonna sit here. Everything is here. Anyway. So like I can just grab the yarn I'm talking about. Um, Last year, Elisa's kind of spring summer collection was called True Colors. These are all the minis on her barefoot sock. And here's the Tell Me the Chartreuse color that I am using. I don't know what I'm going to do with these minis. They might actually just live in this little container forever because I love looking at them. Um, but I bought these at Knit City, Vancouver. I guess that was, wait, did I buy them? No, I ordered them. Sorry, I'm thinking of a different set of minis I bought at Knit City. But there's Knit City this year in Vancouver, and I'm so excited. I cannot wait. So this is the cashmere base that Elise has. It's called Miss DK, 70% baby alpaca, 20% silk, 10% cashmere. This is a 100-gram skein. There's 225 meters. You can see by the flop how much drape this fabric will have. I'll try to put in some B-roll so that you can see the color better because it's a little bit washed out in this room. Well, actually, that's not too bad. But I have cast on a Maggie cardigan, which is a short sleeve button-up crew neck pattern from Petite Knit. And I'm at the point where, so it has a contiguous shoulder construction, kind of that set in sleeve look, but knitting continuous seamlessly. Wow, seamlessly. So I've already started that point. So you start by working the back, and you've got increases on a slope here. Put the stitches on hold, and then pick up and work the fronts. And then you join it all together and start working the sleeve caps at the same time, working on the fronts and the back. So I don't have too much done. Because still at a point where I have to refer to the pattern, there's like a different level of increasing that is happening right now. But this fabric feels really nice. It is so soft. I hope it doesn't irritate my skin at all because I'm just a little bit sensitive. But I'm pretty good with alpaca, so I'm not too worried about that. I have my blocked swatch here on my board. You can see just how flowy the fabric is. So it's knit on, what is it knit on? 3.5 millimeter needles. And so I think the suggested yarn is actually a sport weight. I don't really pay attention too much about whether it's like heavy fingering sport, light DK, or whatever. I just kind of swatch and see if I'm close to gauge or not, or if I even like the fabric. In this case, I just took a chance because I think this is more of a kind of a light DK. It's also not a type of yarn that's gonna say like bloom a lot because alpaca is constructed differently from wool, and then silk is like really smooth, like not really a blooming kind of fiber. So I decided to take a chance and swatched it and worked out, and I liked the fabric. It's still flowy, it's not dense. So lots of people talk about, don't forget to gauge swatch. But also don't forget to do a swatch because you want to figure out whether you like the fabric or not. So it's not necessarily about hitting the exact numbers in the pattern, but finding the fabric that you like. If you are someone that doesn't know how to kind of adjust things, if you don't hit the exact gauge, then maybe you do want to hit gauge. But it just involves a little bit of extra work, a little bit of extra math, and at the end, you'll end up with a fabric that you actually will like and enjoy wearing. So that's the plan for the Maggie cardigan. We'll see how much yarn I have left when I get to, I'm going to finish the body, and then was considering doing this as a long sleeve, but I don't know if I quite purchased enough to make it a long sleeve because I bought this, last year. So I'm totally fine though if it ends up just being a short sleeve because I think it'd be a really cute little spring cardigan to have for this year. All right, on to some acquisitions. So Fibres West was at the end of March. It's a 2-day event in Cloverdale. It's held at this big red barn, the Agroplex in Surrey, which is actually not too far from where I live now. And there are some workshops. I don't know, are they on both days? I think that you can sign up for workshops either on the Friday or the Saturday, but then there's also a market on Friday and Saturday. Being called Fibres West, it does lean more like fiber rather than yarn, but there's still lots of great things if you don't spin, like I don't spin at all. I particularly like to go looking for vintage buttons. I'm a sucker for vintage buttons. And there's one booth. So far they've been there both times that I've gone and always have just like a really cool selection of buttons. And then I always like visiting Nikki from Okanagan Dyeworks. She's from Vernon. Always like to go in and get either like a hat quantity or a shirt quantity for my daughter. Um, Darcy, she has a couple tops that I made for her in the superwash yarn that Nikki has, and my daughter says she says it's very cozy and very comfortable. And since she has said that, so I just keep buying Nikki's fingering weight yarn because my daughter says she enjoys wearing it. So I'll start with yarn from Okanagan Dyeworks. So here is the color Lilac. This is the 80% superwash merino and 20% nylon. These are 30 bucks a piece. These were not from the sale bin, and this is kind of a tonal, variegated, purpley, kind of purpley gray. And the idea is that one skein should be enough for a tank top for my daughter. I'm going to do another popsicle tank. So another pattern for my friend Sarah, Noelle Knits. The popsicle tank, which is a 3x1 rib tank top. Darcy actually still fits the one I made her last year, the year before. I cannot keep track of the makes. But it's getting short. And so I'd like to make her a new one. And she's really into wearing tank tops now. She wasn't before. And all of a sudden she's just all about tank tops. So girl loves fashion. She changes her fashion choices like frequently. And then with the second skein, I'm going to see if it's enough to make either a cute pair of matching shorts or a skirt. So I drafted up a pattern, like a circle skirt kind of vibe for my daughter with DK weight yarn a couple years back. She actually still fits it too, but it's getting short. But this is fingering weight yarn. I didn't really think about whether it's going to be enough. We'll see. We'll find out. But gonna do the top first, and then maybe I'll ask her if she'd want a skirt or shorts. I would do it with an elastic sewn or like placed inside the waistband, so I wouldn't do drawstring or anything like that. Like a pull-on, pull-off skirt or shorts is going to be much more functional and more comfortable and easier to wear. Especially going like to the washroom. Like she wore jeans to school the other day. She's like, Mom, I want to be like Daddy and wear a belt. I was like, oh, okay, sure, I got a little belt. And I thought about, wait, can you actually undo this and do this back up and still go to the bathroom by yourself? Or am I going to be sending you in and you're going to be a bit of an annoyance, extra work for the teacher every time you have to go? But apparently it went well enough. I think they just left the belt loose enough so she could still like pull on. I don't know. Anyways, teacher didn't say anything about it, so it was fine. So, next yarn I got, I have been wanting to knit with linen. I know, despite what it's going to do to my hands. I've been wanting to knit with linen for quite some time. In particular, I want black, and sometimes it's hard to find black. So I don't like black wool, really. It's the color of it and the way like extra fluff, particularly like white fluff and also like cat hair, gets stuck on it. And then I came across the booth called Shapeless Yarns, And it's really cool. They are based on Vancouver Island in the Shaughnessy area, and they carry sheepless yarns. And the motivation for that is that the owner, she herself is allergic to wool and lanolins and animal fibers. So she wanted to, you know, have a shop for knitters and crocheters for, people like her with allergies or people that just don't like or can't work with animal fibers. So everything she has is lanolin free, animal free products. And in her booth, she had some 100% linen. Brand is La Droguerie, and it's from France. And this is where like the good flax, nice flax is grown in France. So this is good quality linen right here. When I was swatching, when I was working with it though, I found like these little tiny like bits of it were kind of flaking off, and I don't know, this is the flax kind of brittle and it's just like excess, or like what is it? Not entire like not too concerned about it. Like it wasn't dyeing my fingers or my needles, so that was okay. If I was, say, like using an acrylic yarn and then all these like little bits came off, I'd be worried about microplastics. But this is linen, so not too worried about that. And I've already swatched it, and I did the lazy way and I didn't even trim my yarn. It's still attached to the ball here. But this is like a true black, if you're looking for a true black. So this swatch is 4mm on 4mm needles. It's a bit sheer. I don't know how this is going to come up with, but you can see how sheer it is, and which I'm a little concerned because originally, so this swatch is for the Audrey top, and I like the look of the Audrey top, but it's one that fits, I don't think there's negative ease. It's like neutral ease, no ease, and it sits pretty close, and I was just worried about, like, when you have something that's kind of sheer, is it better if it's close to the body or farther from the body? I don't know. But I like the idea of this DK weight linen because, if I decided to not wear a bra or just like have like nipple covers or something like that, it's like just dense enough or thick enough to cover me. um, trying to be modest, okay? I'm not really one to show off the nips. So, but given how sheer it is, like I'm not quite sure if I still want to do the Audrey top with it. So what do you guys think? Should I do the Audrey top by Petite Knit, or should I choose something that is going to be like away from the body? So I would definitely be wearing just like a bra, and I don't know. I don't know. This is something that will just kind of sit on my shelf for a bit until I have finished my other whips and figure out what I really want to do with it. It didn't hurt my hands as bad as I thought, but it was straining my fingers, especially because I'm knitting flat. So it's definitely going to be one of those projects that I have to tell myself not to do quickly and take lots of breaks. But yeah, that's 100% linen in a true black. Okay, the next bit is kind of like, I wasn't thinking. Rookie mistake. So I gotta pull out some other yarn to tell you this story. So Yoriko Oki, who works out of Fiber Arts Studio in Granville Island here in Vancouver, she has the mohair that works well with my skin the most. She is the one who dyes Glowworm. If you are familiar with my Paul cardigan, my first Paul cardigan, that bright green, yellow green, the Glowworm mohair is from Yoriko. And she always has a spring sale kind of earlier in March. So I like to take advantage of that, go on her website and buy some mohair. I did that when I bought the Glowworm mohair, but she only had 2 in stock. And so I just decided to buy the 2 anyways. And then she vends at Fibres West. So then I just buy the 3rd skein at Fibres West from her. Now, I was very lucky, I'm thinking about this after the fact, that I just went in and was like, yep, grab the third skein. Didn't even think about the differences you can have with hand-dyed yarn. But in my case, the glowworm skein was like very close to the first two skeins that I had purchased. Now, here we come to this year. I'm doing the same thing. There is a particular red mohair that I want to buy from Eureka. Again, only 2 in stock. Buy them anyways. Go to Fibres West. Hey, Eureka, say hi to her. She was so kind. I just have this one skein of red mohair, and she gifted it to me. And yeah, she recognized me because I did say hi to her in like Toronto as well before. And she remembers my Paul cardigan, and she gifted me the skein. And I was like, oh my God. I said, can I give you a hug? And I gave her a hug. And I was like, thank you so much. But you know what I wasn't thinking about? Again, rookie mistake. I didn't bring the skeins with me that I'd already purchased, which I recall I did that last year. I brought the glowworm skeins with me and did the once over and made sure I picked a skein that matched. I didn't do that this year. Just so brought it home and after the fact, I was like, oh my goodness, I didn't think about different dye lots. And so unfortunately, it doesn't match the skeins I already have. So the color is called Love Song, and it's kind of, it's a red, but so these are the two I bought online, and they're like a really nice red, maybe a little bit pink, or ever so slight fuchsia, maybe. And this is a skein that Eureka gifted me, but this one has more burgundy purple in it. So you can see from a distance there is a difference there. I'm like, oh, oops, that's totally my bad. Totally my bad. I'm still so thankful that Eureka gifted me this skein. Like, she really didn't have to do that. But yeah, so that's what's happening now. But you know what? I'm not going to let myself be upset about it. Yes, I messed up. But the plan, because we have Knit City Vancouver this year in September, is I'm going to take all of these with me. I'm going to go visit Eureka's booth and see which ones match whatever she has in her booth, and then go from there. Do I know what I'm actually going to make with these? No. So that's why I'm not super upset. If I had something lined up, then I would be like kicking myself more. But because I was just after buying a sweater quantities worth, whatever, didn't get it, okay. But 2 skeins of mohair with some fingering is actually enough for some projects like the Lento, the cognac sweater, or a cardigan. So there are projects out there where I could just use 2 skeins. There's not many projects where I would just use one. Like if I was making a hat, yeah, I could just use 1 skein, but not any rush. It is a regular color that Eureka dyes up. So this will just be on hold until I go visit her in September. I suppose I could actually go to her studio on Grandma Island as well. I could, but I'm not in a rush, so I'll wait till September, bring these with me, see what sort of like dye lot she's got happening there, and go from there. But I did buy some fingering weight yarn already from Knit Picks palette because I have the palette like color card to match. And that's when I was like, oh, which skein was I using to match this fingering weight yarn? But anyway, got that yarn on sale too. It's still enough for a project, for something else, even if I don't use the mohairs. That's why, I'm trying to make myself feel better. But anyway, so got this one gifted to me from Eureka. And okay, so I mentioned that I like to go get buttons. And I got buttons, but not as many as I did last year. So, mentioned that I want to add some more red into my wardrobe. So, I found these tiny little vintage, I think they're just plastic, but they are super tiny. These like orangey red buttons, which, can you see? Can you see where I'm going with here? Like this yarn, which I actually have more of this tomato colored palette yarn. So the idea is to make a lightweight fingering weight cardigan. Either, I'm not sure if I'm going to do a crew neck or v-neck. So like Cardi Jumper by VertKnit is up there. There's one called the Kinvara cardigan from, can't remember the name of the designer. I'll put it up. Also the Melissa cardigan from Iris Makes is another contender. I mean, for obvious reasons, Melissa. So I just have to decide which drop shoulder I want to do, and then whether I want to do a v-neck or a crew neck. But that's why I bought these tiny buttons, because I really wanted same colored buttons. I wanted like a more monotone look. And again, just like tiny, because the idea is that once I button it up, I'm probably not going to unbutton it again. And I want enough positive ease so I can slip it on and off. But I want the look of the button. So see where I'm going there? Yeah. Also got these vintage glass buttons, which are black. Again, same idea. Would like to have a black lightweight cardigan. So that will be for a future black cardigan. And I just liked these ones. These are vintage glass, colorless ones. And they, two-hole button. Obviously for some sort of like cardigan as well. It's another kind of like lighter weight one, something proportional to this button size. But I just liked these, so I got them. And so the last thing I got at Fibres West is not knitting related, but there was this booth of this woman who sews, makes children's clothing. And all the clothing, the overall color palette is just beautiful. It's actually, I was telling the woman, this is the color palette that my husband and I really wanted for our daughter's bedroom. Maybe we'll still can, like, since we moved, obviously, like, that went out the window. Her room looks different now. But it's also the kind of the color palette that my husband was saying, like, oh, I wish, like, all of Darcy's clothing was in this color palette. Like, he had this whole idea of her clothing, her room, her aesthetic. It's kind of cute, actually. So I got this skirt, non-functional, so these buttons are decorative, but it's corduroy. Isn't that cute? A waistband. It's a little bit big for Darcy. It's like a size 5. So I think the elastic is just snug enough to fit on her. And she's got a little bit of a booty, so it like stays up on her. But not quite wearable yet. Yeah, because I said it's a little bit big, so then she has it in her head that she can't wear it. So, but hopefully she'll wear it later. I think this would be really cute in the fall with some like sweater leggings or something like that. But if you are local and interested in supporting local, her company is Round the Garden Children's Clothing. I saved her business card. And like, you can kind of get the idea from her business card. The color palette. Just beautiful, like foresty green, these pastel pinks. And so there were kind of like gender neutral, like boys and girls clothing in our booth. Young kids, like newborn, I would say up to, what size did I see? Maybe up to size, like age 12. Maybe 8 or 10 would, 8 to 10 would be a better guess. But just like lovely, lovely fabrics. They're all Oecotex certified fabrics and finished well. Like, as someone who sews, and like, she's done a very good job. All the edges are serged and very clean. The buttons, just clearly use the machine to sew on the buttons. But just, there's no like random threads everywhere. Her lines are super straight and neat. What was the price of this skirt? I think it was like 42 or something like that. I thought that was a really good price considering this woman has sewn this herself. I mean, that's much better job than I'm gonna do. So I was happy to find that and also just support a local company. All right, so that's everything pretty much. The last thing I know, I said I wanted to get your input on the color red. So I mentioned that I had bought these buttons for a red cardigan. So definitely want to make a crew neck or v-neck with this. But I'm also playing with the idea of a different red, which maybe those buttons wouldn't work. I would do like a pearl or a shell button. I should have grabbed this yarn ahead of time. I wonder if the color is going to show up though. Okay, so in my left hand, this is the tomato red color that's in my Norma sweater. Got an orange undertone. And then this is the color Serrano, another red from Knit Picks. Not as much orange. Well, when you put them next together, this one just looks straight up orange. I swear in real life it's not that orange. But anyway, so I'm trying to decide, do I want a cardigan that's an orangey red, or do I want one that is a like, oh, that just rolled away, a red. Okay. So, but I was also playing with the idea of like, okay, maybe if this orangey red doesn't look as good with my skin tone, then maybe that's the one that I make a v-neck because it's like farther away from my face. And this one has the crew neck, the higher neck cardigan. I don't know. Do we like any of these reds? I'm in artificial lighting, but if it go closer. Okay, there we go. Tomato, Serrano. What do you think, guys? Do I need one of each? Or is like one definitely a clear winner over the other? Let me know. Got some time before I cast these on because I've got my Maggie cardigan underway. Oh, sorry, one more swatch left of another project I want to do, and then that's it. I don't know what I did with it. Oh, here it is. Hiding under the black linen. Okay, so, okay, last thing. More black. So this is a swatch holding a strand of Knitting for All of Pure Silk and a strand of Knitting for All of Merino. Here they are. Wonderful black yarns. Can you see it? Right? I'm just playing with you guys. They're constructed very similarly, like plied. And when I was knitting in the evening, I was like, I can't even tell the difference between these two. My eyes aren't that bad, okay? But they're very similar in terms of blocks, like they're both coal. And there's only really a slight difference in the texture between the silk and the merino, but otherwise, like, they're the same black, as far as I can see. So I have knit a swatch for another Claire vest from Mochi Knits. I made one out of a wool linen base from Bramble Ridge, and I want a black version, but I want one that's got a little bit more structure or density to it. Inspired by Ursula, Old Witch Knits on Instagram. She's a local. I run into her in some different events, and she made a black version of her Claire vest, and she intentionally knit up a denser fabric, and I really liked the look, how it looked on her, And I like the idea of a denser fabric. Also, the idea of making it more like a suit fabric. It's kind of been kind of trendy lately. Um, but that's the idea of this swatch. And I do like, so I've already blocked this, and I actually do really like this fabric. It is, you get the softness from the merino, but you get a little bit of that texture from the silk because it's a Boret silk. But there's still like, there's good like drape to it because you get the weight from the silk. So that's why I didn't want to do a full merino one because I thought it'd be too light. I like kind of like a heavy drape was the idea for it. And also another reason why I wanted something a bit thicker is because I think the first one I made is like too cold. So I did bring it with me to Mexico and I wore it in Mexico. And, plus humidity, it was like mid to high 20s Celsius. And I was like, I'm too cold. It was like not warm enough to wear it. And so I don't want to have to wait till it's like really hot to wear the black version, even though black would, because of the absorption of the sun and blah, 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 would be warmer. I wanted something just to be a bit thicker, add some more warmth, because obviously it's not Mexico where I live, so it's not going to get, as hot. So just trying to like work with that. Okay. Sorry, I'm like probably losing some of you guys. You're like, So that's what I've been up to, and that's what I'm gonna try to work on for the next month or bit. Yeah. So thank you so much for hanging out with me for today's podcast episode, and I will see you in the next one. Until then, happy knitting. Bye.